Good morning, everybody. Maxime Bernier registered his party on January 18th. That's also coincidentally his birthday. And he raised $72,000 right off the hop and then decided to do a registration money bomb. And this weekend, his party raised $301,000. That's incredible. And this is Maxime's response to that. He says, a huge thank you to the PPC supporters across the country who gave $301,000 in 3 days after our party was officially registered by Elections Canada. That says a whole lot more than the polls ever could, in my opinion. I think that's a very, very good sign for Mr. Bernier's fledgling party. I like his leadership style. I like what he's doing, clearly. And this is classy. This is a good way to say thank you to your supporters. So I think that's excellent. Andrew Scheer held a town hall this past weekend. I was going to do an in-depth kind of look at it. This is Global News breaks in halfway through to deliver news while Mr. Scheer is talking about while he's answering questions. It was really strange. I was watching this and then they broke in and they start talking about their news stuff. I mean, it's the CBC broadcast, but it was really, really jarring. And by Sunday morning, it was pretty much scrubbed from most Canadian newspapers weren't talking about Scheer's town hall. Overall, I think he did okay. He answered, he did well. His answers were solid, on point for the most part, but I'll get into a breakdown of that later. It would be a very long video if I did a breakdown with the other stories I'm trying to cover. So I wanted to just mention that Mr. Scheer did a town hall. If you're interested in hearing more fleshed out kind of talking points from him, you can check the link. It's in the description. And I will probably do a breakdown video sooner or later. Probably like this afternoon, likely, unless something comes up. Okay. Here's the biggest story of the weekend. If you hadn't heard about this, it's one of those things that has been shoved down your throat, right? Top of Reddit, people having giant conversations about it on Twitter. I'm sure Facebook is alight with this Maga Hat and all of these red, red sweaters and things, right? And I looked at this and I thought, wow, this is way more than is necessary for this little non-event, in my opinion. And then things started to kind of unwind. And so CTV is reporting, and this was on January 19th, so this is 2 days ago, this is Saturday, and they say Maga Hat High teenagers mock Indigenous elder. The amount of disrespect, and there's all sorts of, scores of teenage boys, many wearing pro-Trump hats and shirts, openly mock an Indigenous group marching in DC. That'll play well to Canadian crowds because they've been conditioned to hate Trump. But the problem is, the whole narrative here has been made up by the news media and pushed to be he assaulted him, right? The MAGA hat wearing teen was somehow being insulting to the Indigenous chief by standing here and doing what he was doing. And that's not the story at all. That's not even what happened. There's full video that debunks the news media's spin on this. And it's really interesting. But Mr. Sandmann, Nick Sandmann, that is his name, released a statement, and I think it's worth reading. And I'm going to read just the beginning parts of it because it casts a very different light. There's also a video, and I'm not going to play the video, but this is a 4-minute video, worthwhile. Link is in the description, that breaks down how much CNN created the narrative, right? It shows there was a crowd of protesters who were calling names to the high school kids, the protesters were calling the high school kids names. And I'll get to that in a minute when I read Nick Sandmann's description of what happened. So this one protesting group was calling the high school kids names. The high school kids asked for permission to start doing their high school cheers. And then the Native American group walked into them doing the cheers and started I don't know, doing whatever they were doing, the whole interaction, right? And you can see the whole video. And on the video, no one ever says build that wall or any chance to that effect at all. Nobody was being racist. The only people being racist and hateful were the people attacking the high school kids, from what I heard on the video. So I thought that was really interesting. But more interesting and how it ties into Canada, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty details of this, is they're painting this as scores of teenage boys wearing, this is Donald Trump's fault, according to CTV News, right? Donald Trump incited this hateful child to be disrespectful against this elder. That's the slant they're trying to push. And they know about this. This is updated Monday, January 21st. And all this article does, and I'm not going to go through it because it's just so silly, but all this article does is muddy the waters further. It does not clear up the confusion, it makes it more confusing. And the way they structure the article is for maximum hate. Maybe I will go through it. We'll see, but I'm going to read Nick Sandmann's article first. Okay. It says, statement of Nick Sandmann, Covington High School Junior, regarding incident at Lincoln Memorial. Quote, I'm providing this factual account of what happened on Friday afternoon at the Lincoln Memorial to correct misinformation and outright lies being spread about my family and me. I'm the student in the video who was confronted by the Native American protester. I arrived at the Lincoln Memorial at 4:30 p.m. I was told to be there by 5:30 p.m. when our buses were due to leave. Washington for the trip back to Kentucky. Sorry, we had been attending the March for Life rally and then had to split up into small groups to go sightseeing. Sorry, the formatting on this is strange. When we arrived, we noticed four African-American protesters who were also on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. I'm not sure what they were protesting, and I did not interact with them. I did hear them direct derogatory insults at our school group. The protesters said hateful things. They called us racists, bigots, white crackers, faggots, and incest kids. They also taunted an African-American student from my school by telling him that we would harvest his organs. I have no idea what that insult means, but it was startling to hear. Because we were being loudly attacked and taunted in public, a student in our group asked one of our teacher's chaperones for permission to begin our school spirit chants to counter the hateful things that were being shouted at our group. The chants are commonly used at sporting events. They are all positive in nature and sound like what you would hear at any high school. Our chaperone gave us permission to use our school chants. We would not have done that without obtaining permission from the adults in charge of our group. At no time did I hear any student chant anything other than the school spirit chants. I did not witness or hear any student chant "Build That Wall" or anything hateful or racist at any time. Assertions to the contrary are simply false. Our chants were loud because we wanted to drown out the hateful comments that were being shouted at us by protesters. After a few minutes of chanting, the Native American protesters, who I hadn't previously noticed, approached our group. The Native American protesters had drums and were accompanied by at least one person with a camera. The protester everyone had seen in the video began playing his drum as he waded into the crowd, which parted for him. I did not see anyone try to block his path. He locked eyes with me and approached me, coming within inches of my face. He played his drum the entire time he was in my face. I never interacted with this protester. I did not speak to him. I did not make any hand gestures or other aggressive already being yelled at by another group of protesters. And when the second group approached, I was nervous. I think that's what it says, Noives. To be honest, I was startled and confused as to why he had approached me. We had worried that a situation was getting out of control where adults were attempting to provoke teenagers. I believed that by remaining motionless and calm, I was helping to diffuse the situation. I realized everyone had cameras and that perhaps a group of adults was trying to provoke a group of teenagers into a larger conflict. I said a silent prayer that the situation would not get out of hand. During the period of the drumming, a member of the protesters' entourage began yelling at a fellow student that we stole our land and that we should go back to Europe. I heard one of my fellow students begin to respond. I motioned to my classmate and tried to get him to stop engaging with the protester, as I was still in a mindset that we needed to calm down tensions. I never felt like I was blocking the Native American protester. He did not make any attempt to go around me. It was clear to me that he had singled me out for a confrontation, although I am not sure why. The engagement ended when one of our teachers told me that buses had arrived and it was time to go. I obeyed my teacher and simply walked to the buses. At that moment, I thought I had diffused the situation by remaining calm, and I was thankful nothing physical had occurred. I never understood why either of the two groups of protesters were engaging with us or exactly what they were protesting at the Lincoln Memorial. We were simply there to meet a bus, not become central players in a media spectacle. This is the first time in my life I've encountered any sort of public protest, let alone this kind of confrontation or demonstration. I was not intentionally making faces at the protester. I did smile at one point because I wanted him to know that I was not going to become angry, intimidated, or to be provoked into a larger confrontation. I am a faithful Christian and practicing Catholic, and I always try to live up to the ideals my faith teaches me, to remain respectful of others and to take no action that would lead to conflict or violence. I harbor no ill will for this person. I respect this person's right to protest and engage in free speech activities, and I support his chanting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial any day of the week. I believe he should rethink his tactics of invading personal space of others, but that is his choice to make. I'm not actually sure that's his choice to make. Back to the article. I'm being called every name in the book, including racist, and I will not stand for this mob-like character assassination of my family's name. My parents were not on that trip, and I strive to represent my family in a respectful way in all public settings. They received physical and death threats via social media, as well as hateful insults. One person threatened to harm me at school, and one person claimed to live in my neighborhood. My parents are receiving death threats and professional threats because of the social media mob that has formed over this issue. I love my school, my teachers, and my classmates. I work hard to achieve good grades and to participate in several extracurricular activities. I'm mortified that so many people have come to believe something that did not happen, that students from my school were chanting or acting in a racist racist fashion towards African Americans or Native Americans. I did not do that, do not have hateful feelings in my heart, and do not witness any of my classmates doing that. I cannot speak for everyone, only for myself, but I can tell you my experience with Covington Catholic is that students are respectful of all races and cultures. We also support everyone's right to free speech. I'm not going to comment on the world's account of Mr. Phillips, as I don't know him and would not presume to know what is in his heart nor mind, nor am I going to comment further on the other protesters, as I don't know their hearts or minds either. I've read that Mr. Phillips is a veteran of the United States Marines. I thank him for his service, and I'm grateful to anyone who puts on the uniform to defend our nation. If anyone has earned the right to speak freely, it's a U.S. Marine veteran. I can only speak for myself and what I observed and felt at the time, but I would caution anyone passing judgment based on a few seconds of video to watch the longer clips that are on the internet, as they show a much different story that is being portrayed by people with agendas. I provided this account of events to the Diocese of Covington so they may know exactly what happened, and I stand ready and willing to cooperate with any investigations they're conducting. So that's the statement. And again, I apologize for the poor reading. It was copied from a very difficult to read Jake Tapper tweet, and all of the media kind of references it, but never links to the original. So this was the best I had. So I apologize about that. But more important is the media spin. So that was this guy's story, and we can see the spin. We can see what they're trying to push. They being CTV News. And here's the story, and we are going to go through it because why not? So again, this is after they read the same report the same statement that I just read from Nick Sandmann. They reported this. The student who stared and smiled an elderly Native American protester drumming in his face outside the Lincoln Memorial as his schoolmates chanted and laughed said he did nothing to provoke the man in the videotaped confrontation and was only trying to calm the situation. The student identified himself in an email statement Sunday evening as Junior Nick Sandmann of Covington Catholic High School in a northern Kentucky suburb of Cincinnati. An official working with the family confirmed Sandmann's identity, speaking on condition of anonymity because the source didn't want to distract from the statement. Videos posted on the confrontation drew wide criticism on social media. Quote, I'm being called every name in the book, including a racist, and I will not stand for this mob-like character assassination of my family's name, wrote Sandmann, who added that he and his parents have received death threats since videos of Friday's confrontation emerged. Both Sandmann and Nathan Phillips say they were just trying to diffuse the tensions that were rising among three groups on a day at Washington hosted both March for Life and the Indigenous Peoples March. But video of Sandmann standing very close to Phillips, staring at times and smiling at him as Phillips sang and played a drum, gave many who watched it a different impression. Other students appeared to be laughing at the drummer, and at least one could be seen on video doing a tomahawk chop. The dueling accounts emerged Sunday as the nation picked apart footage from dozens of cell phones that recorded the incident on Friday in Washington amid an increasingly divided political climate fueled by a political government shutdown over immigration policy. Oh, there we go. Shoehorned it in. It had nothing to do with any of that. Back to the article. Phillips had approached Sandmann, but well before that, both his group and Sandmann's, which had taken part in the anti-abortion rally for Life, March for Life, I believe is what it's called, were confronted by a third group that appeared to be affiliated with the Black Hebrew Israelites movement. Video shows members of the religious group yelling disparaging and profane insults at the students who taunt them in return. Video also shows the Native Americans being insulted by the small religious group. Sandmann wrote that the students were called racists, bigots, white crackers, and incest kids by the third group. He said that a teacher chaperone gave the students permission to begin their school chants to counter the hateful things that were being shouted at the group. One of those chants, however, is what led Phillips and Marcus, a member of the Pawnee and Samoan, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try that, tribes, to approach the youth. It was a haka, a war dance of New Zealand indigenous Maori culture, made famous by the country's national rugby team. Freho, who is known as a chief something, I'm not sure there, told the AP in a phone interview that he felt the students were mocking the dance. I wonder what can you just choose anything to be offended at, and then you can approach somebody and get in their face and cause the media firestorm that happened? But more to the point, CTV is somehow still trying to blame the kid in this whole thing. This is a child. This person should not have this incident on his shoulders. And CTV should be ashamed of themselves for not rewriting this article to reflect more accurately what the video shows. And if you watch the videos, the actual videos, the footage, because there's a guy, here is this guy. See the drum here, right? Here, and there's a person who followed him the whole time. Same drum, okay? And he's drumming in his face. He approached him. And if you are an adult and you see a group of 4 adults, because it's four protesters who are shouting very hateful things, and you can watch the video for yourself if you're interested. But these protesters are attacking the kids. These guys, they're attacking the kids, and they're saying some very hateful things, and the kids are defending the people these guys are attacking, right? They're saying this group shouldn't exist, essentially, or this group shouldn't get X, Y, Z right. And the kids react like, whoa, that's crazy. You can't do that. Why would this chief person insert himself into the situation? It makes no sense, right? To defuse the situation. And then he was offended because they were mocking some dance that, what is he from New Zealand all of a sudden? Or the New Zealand rugby team made it famous, so maybe the high school copied it? Maybe this person should be mature enough to handle that whole situation and carry on rather than get into this confrontation with a literal child. And to his credit, he's handling this well, in my opinion. But the CTV News should not imply that this person had any fault in this situation after reading his statement. It's incredible that they're continuing to, if not muddy the waters, keep propagating the idea that what the kid did was wrong and what the elder did was correct. Because if this person was an elder with any sense of maturity is the best word I can come up with. But if he's looking out for the best interests of these groups, he's not making it worse by wading into this situation. This is a group of kids waiting for a bus, and they were being attacked by these very, very militant and true believers of whatever they're protesting, right? And inserting yourself into it, you don't get to blame the kid, right? Like this was this guy's fault. And you can see it really plainly on the videos. Links in the description. This one's CNN anchor lies about Native American Maga Hat Teen video evidence. So watch it. Come to your own conclusion. But I think it's despicable what our media has become. And finally, last story for today is detention video shows another ISIS fighter saying he's from Canada. Oh, doesn't he look Canadian? I could just picture him sliding down the hill next to everybody in those winters, those cold winters. What a farce our immigration system has become. What a farce our leadership is. What an incredibly sad time to be Canadian. There's only, a little bit of hope. A little bit of hope. I hope that come October, we have new, strong leadership that knows what to do with ISIS fighters who are claiming Canadian citizenship. Because what we're doing with them is not working. And also, I'm glad that Bernier says he's going to fight fake news, because this is trash and it's despicable that we have to pay for it through taxes twice. CBC and I'm sure CTV News is accessing that $500 million that the Trudeau government has handed out for media. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca. Have a good day.